Welcome to the HVAC Jerks with your hosts, Rich, Kevin, and Joe. You can email these guys at theboys@thehvacjerks.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HVAC Jerks. My name is Rich. I'm here with Kevin and Joe, and we're your hosts, or your jerks. Today, I thought we'd talk about some funny and stupid stories that we've collected over the years and throughout our careers. So this may just turn into an everybody is stupid discussion. So where do we want to start? I wanted to just say that when I was a manager, I managed a bunch of crews, install crews, and we had a dress code. And they had to wear a uniform, and they had to wear black shoes and a black belt and all this kind of thing. And I remember one guy used to never come in with his belt, and we used to send him home all the time. And I told him, "You come in one more time without your belt, and I'm going to have to suspend you." So he comes in the next day, and he says,
"Did you get him some working mini suspenders?"
The guy came in with no belt the next day, and I said, "Paul, where's your belt?" And he said, "My brother's got it on," because his brother worked for us too. I said, "Well, you only have one belt between the two of you?" And he said, "Well, my parents were getting their floors redone in their bedroom, and I left my belt in there, so we only have one belt, so we thought we'd share it." So that's a true story, man. That's
So he never picked his pants up?
No, he just got.
Did you send him home?
Yeah, we sent him home. It's
suspended without pay?
You want to
No suspenders, no pay.
I had a guy once when we were working in the ghetto, and we had people they were just from all over the place. But anyway, we had this one guy who's been with us for about a year or so, and one day he doesn't show up for work.
By the way, did you just say anywho?
Anywho, I heard.
Did I say that?
Whoville.
Yeah, that's. They got me going on this Dr. Seuss stuff. Yeah. so yeah, this we were working for Dr. Seuss, and
Anywho. All right, then. Pull it back together.
So
now.
What a jerk.
So this guy he was a helper, and he was usually pretty reliable, but then one day he didn't show up, and he didn't show up for a couple of days, and we had no idea where he was, and until we read in the paper that the guy didn't come into work because he got arrested because he broke into a house, which wasn't uncommon. We had guys, get arrested all the time.
Running amok.
But
What a great company to work for.
this guy got arrested.
The guys are breaking in the house.
But he got arrested because he broke into a house and stole a toilet because his toilet broke.
Ah, very good.
So I've heard a lot of weird stories, but yeah, man.
Desperate times. I don't have one.
Front down to McDonald's.
Stealing a shitter, huh?
So yeah, that was a tough.
Pretty low.
But that was a rough neighborhood we worked in.
Well,
You've got to have a lot of stories like that.
World, well, I don't have guys stealing toilets. I can tell you that. But you were saying the ghetto, and some of the parts that we live in here, we have some really rough neighborhoods, And we were running a night shift. I was doing service for a large oil company in the area, and we would do calls. I was doing night shifts, so I would start 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we would run till about 1 in the morning, and then we were on call from 1 in the morning till 4 in the morning. And the way the schedule worked, unfortunately, there was really nobody from 4 to 8 when the day started. So if you were really overtime hungry or had nowhere to go at 3 in the morning, you would stay out and do the extra calls. So I get this call in downtown. I don't want to, I don't want to give away
local
the name.
city,
Local city here downtown, 3 in the morning, where the fire barrels are going, and people own certain blocks in the neighborhood. Newburgh, sorry, Riverfront's beautiful. So yeah, in downtown Newburgh, it's not the nicest neighborhood. A lot of gangs. So we would do what we call the drive-by, where you look at the address, drive by, and make a decision on whether or not you're going to stop there.
Yeah.
And so as I'm driving by, like I said, the burn barrels are out. There's people everywhere. And
so in the wintertime?
This is 3 in the morning.
Winter
on a
time.
cold winter night.
Yeah.
Right. So not the best neighborhood to go in. A lot of pit bulls. I didn't want to go down there by myself and do anything stupid as a lone wolf, So so there's this heavy set Puerto Rican fella standing on a front porch, and he has on these like skimpy, like 1968 basketball shorts, a wife beater, more gold than you've ever touched, and flip-flops. And he's on the front porch, and he's screaming and yelling at me, waving me down. So I kept driving. I turn around, I go back, and I see him. Now he's on my passenger side, so he's looking at me, and he's waving. So I go a little bit further up the road, and just off to the right, there's a parking lot. It was pretty well lit, safety purposes. So I pull in, and 3 guys come running over, and they're like, "Big Poppi wants to see you."
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'm not leaving my truck. And they're like, no. He told us to stay here. We'll walk with you. You go over. So I go over and I meet Big Poppi. And he was a big dude.
Yeah.
And his name was Poppi. So the Big Poppi.
That's a surprise.
So he thanked me very much for stopping in and actually making the effort to fix his heating system. Because he said at 3 o'clock in the morning, not too many people would stop at his neighborhood.
Yeah,
to fix
I know the neighborhood you're talking about.
So, so I said, well, who's watching? I can't leave my truck. And he says, nobody's going to mess with your truck because nobody messes with Big Poppi. So I felt very secure at that moment. There was 3 guys watching my truck. I did the heating call. Needed a transformer. Went and got the part. Changed it out. Beckett burner. Pretty simple call. Only there about 15, 20 minutes,
Yeah.
Got him up and running. Didn't hang out and get any phone numbers or anything,
No.
But,
Was your truck still there?
Yeah, my truck was still there. I got handshakes, and the guy whipped out about a $3,000 wad of cash.
Yeah.
Gave me $350 as a tip.
Nice.
And said, thanks for stopping.
Wow.
And so I left there, and that was the last time I saw Big Poppi.
He called 10 other
Every
companies,
time you
nobody
say
would go
Big
there.
Poppi, I want to start singing the Biggie Small song.
So I don't know how funny of a story that is, but that might be a realistic story that people can relate to in certain situations.
I have one that's not really funny, but it was funny at the time.
That's good. Throw that right in the show. That'll entertain the people.
We were doing a huge installation on this multi-million-dollar home, and my customer calls back after the job was done and saying, we can't get any heating or cooling on this particular level in this particular area. And for the life of me, it was a perfect, beautiful job. My installer, my install manager was there, and he says, I don't know what's going on. And, everything was done right, the way you designed it and everything. So I went personally to look for the job, and I did the simple thing of going around and checking the velocity in the air coming out of each ducts. And lo and behold, I find there's no air velocity coming out of any of the ducts. So I go into the basement. I locate the area of the ductwork. I pull the ductwork off, and I go to the takeoffs, and my guys put the takeoffs on without cutting the holes. So, no matter how much you turn I don't care how much you turn the fan speed up, you're not getting the air out of there.
That thing is cranking out.
Sticky collars, I'm sure, right? The sticky collars, just stick them right on.
If I fulfilled my funny story, and it wasn't funny at the time, I can tell you.
Oh, man,
I got one.
Laughing my ass off.
Hey, Kevin, right down the road from where you were talking about, where you did that night call, we had a house that was being renovated in the same neighborhood. And so they were turning this house into a 2-family. So they split it, and they actually covered up the stairs to go into the basement because they were making that part of the kitchen or something. So they actually closed off they put a floor on top of the stairs, and there was no way to get into the basement now except through a window. So we go to the back of the house in this bad neighborhood, and at least the window was a decent size. It was like 3 by 3 or something. It wasn't a little tiny basement window.
A medium-sized fat guy in there.
Yeah, right. The medium-sized guy. Right.
Medium-sized fat guy.
Well, there's levels.
I don't know
of
about
fat.
Joe,
okay.
but so
Fluffy. Some refer to as fluffy. I think that's
all right.
Glacius.
So we did this whole heating system. We put baseboard in both of these apartments and ran
Through
it down
the
to the
window?
basement, and then we had to bring the cast iron boiler in through the window, and it was like a 4-foot drop from the window down to the floor in the basement. So the gas company had run a new gas line. We put the boiler in, did all the baseboard and everything. And they were still renovating the house. So it was like, I don't know, right before Christmas or something.
And after you get the boiler downstairs, somebody goes, "Oh, look, we can take the plywood off the steps."
yeah, right.
The stairs are still there.
Exactly.
Still there.
But anyway, so
That's when you guys didn't know what Bilcos were.
Right.
There's a set on the side of the building.
But so we get a call from this lady like 2 or 3 days later, and she said the heat's not working. It's cold in the house. So we go over there and we go into the basement through the window and all. It was boarded up. She had a board that she put over the glass.
House.
That's another story, but I got a real one like that too.
With that stolen toilet.
So we take the board off the window, go into the basement, and the floor is wet. So we go down and we're looking in the basement and at the floor, and we go to walk over to the boiler, and the boiler's gone. Somebody
Boiler's
broke
gone?
into the window and
They
broke into
stole
the
the
house.
boiler.
They stole the boiler and took it out the window.
Yeah, but they use the steps.
There were no
sure.
steps, man. There were no steps. That's a true story.
That's a crazy story.
They stole the boiler. Yep.
Like instantly.
Yeah.
I've seen the copper cut out of houses. We've been in, you know,
Yeah,
I've
they
been-
cut the co- yeah, right, yeah, I've
I've
seen
down
that,
there
yeah.
for a water leak,
Yeah.
and you go there, and
Boy,
everything
you
in the house
guys
has been
got
removed.
some idea of what's funny.
Well,
These things are funny.
These are pretty serious
Yeah,
things.
this is not funny.
Well,
Holy cow.
we had a guy that this guy, geez, I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he was a big, funny guy and really good dude. But
Was it a medium big guy?
no,
or
he was a
regular-
large,
big-
big guy.
large,
Yeah,
big guy,
He was
right.
extra fluffy. So he was doing a night call in the same neighborhood. You know, go figure. And he gets in. The people let him in. Come on in. We have no heat. He gets
Yeah.
into the house. Right. Goes into the basement. He got caught up down there. Right. So he gets caught up in trying to find the problem, and the people apparently fell back to sleep. And they left their dogs out. So the only
Yeah.
way out of the basement was through the house. And they had these 2 pit bulls.
Okay.
So as he's down there, he's banging on the door. Dogs are going nuts. No one said anything. Well, apparently he thought they fell asleep. Turns out they left and went to work.
Wow.
And they left him in the basement. And the windows were not large enough for a large, fluffy guy.
Wow.
So he was stuck in the basement. His cell phone was in the truck.
Was his name Kevin?
Nope, no, his name was not Kevin. But yeah, he was down there for hours. We couldn't find
Wow.
him. We had to call the police. We're looking for him, and he was screaming and yelling. He was down there with 2 pit bulls.
This is not
But that-
humor.
But well, you know,
It's not
look, you got
funny.
to
These are
take the lighter
horrible.
side. These are exciting stories.
This
for
is real
sure.
stuff, man. This
But
happens.
you guys you preface the show with being funny. And
Well,
the
say
stories are
something funny then. I mean, we have to rely on your stories. We're not going to get anywhere.
You know what's
These
funny?
guys are horrible.
Don't ever pick up a 5-gallon pail on the side of a highway. I'll tell you that right now. That's funny.
Now, you want to tell a
Anybody
funny
in
story
service truck,
is
right?
when you can't make it to the bathroom and there's no place to go.
That's why
Yeah, I
you
don't even
you
want to
always
get into
carry an
those
extra
stories. I've
5-gallon
seen some
pail.
weird stuff, man.
Always in a. We had this one guy worked for us, and he would run around with an extra 5-gallon pail. Always had it in there, and
Yeah.
a bag of 13-gallon kitchen bag, garbage bag, zip. You know, it was that bad. So,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
what-
we all had guys like that, though. I knew people like that.
What about something, since you're an employer and you were a lead of a company forever and I was an employer, do you guys have any policies that you remember or stands out that your employees really think are ridiculous?
Well, I told you my belt story.
Right.
That doesn't count for
You
you.
like showing up on time.
Well, that's a given.
Punctual-
Yeah.
well, they don't seem to think.
Or stupid policies that you think that, you enacted at one point that you might have thought that
I'm
had
thinking
some merit.
of employees doing weird things, and this has nothing to do with that. But I
Or
remember
even homeowners.
even homeowners.
Yeah, anything that you've gone into a job and a homeowner could be a cat woman or something that has cats all over.
Yeah,
I
I
can
got
tell
one.
you
Yeah, I got
that
stories
I
like
went
that,
to
yeah.
an install and I didn't care the amount of money that they were willing to throw.
Yeah.
It was so much cat poop all over the place, and we
Brutal,
walked out.
brutal.
It was in the middle of the winter, and she had no heat. And I'm like, I don't care, lady, if you put $100,000 down, I'm not coming in your house.
We had a lady in our local town here years ago. We estimated around 30 cats, but the ASPCA came in and captured over 55 cats.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
And
it's
they
ridiculous.
were literally just making themselves comfortable wherever they
Oh,
wanted
man.
to make themselves comfortable. So the house was nasty, and she lived there day in, day out.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything to them.
The
It's like
windows
they don't
would
even
be
see
wide
it.
open, and people would complain about the smells coming
Yeah.
out of the house. I mean, so again, this is not funny,
Yeah.
but it's realistic and it's true. Been in houses where sewer mains were literally just snapped off and dumping in the basement, and the people that lived there thought it'd be a good idea to put it in a garbage pail. So they would just, and then the garbage pail was overflowing.
Yeah,
They had
yeah,
no way of getting a 50-gallon
I think I
jug
have-
of,
Yeah. I bought a house like that once.
I think I figured this out. On our next episode, we'll do unfunny stories, and we'll probably have stuff to laugh at.
Here, how about this one? I was working in a house once, and you were done with that, right?
Yeah, no. I was just gonna say, funny within the
Funny
the
how?
means.
I make you laugh?
Funny,
Funny like a clown or
right?
something?
Yeah, we don't need to make you laugh. Just within the industry.
Yeah.
People find the stuff entertaining. I think. I'm sure people can chime in. Please
Well,
do.
I'm
and-
sure
and-
but
people
how about-
listening
and
have
tell
their
us
own
some
stories.
awesome stories. 'cause
Yeah, definitely. The boys at the HVACJerks.com.
Yeah, tell us your stories. I'm sure
the boys at the
plenty of them
HVAC
out there.
Jerks.
We could keep going on.
Our
and
email,
on.
yeah.
There might not be.
Yeah, but these guys are not funny. I don't know if it's me, but these two guys are just not funny. Your story-
You're a jerk.
Well, that's in the title, okay?
Let me tell you about
job.
how about
Biggest jerk
stupid
here.
customers. I got a pile of stupid customers. I had a guy.
How about horny customers?
You got that too, yeah.
Yeah, those are
But
the best.
I had
Take
one
your
guy once.
sweatshirt off,
Listen
big
to
boy.
this one, and I had a crew once putting air conditioning in his house. It was kind of a wacky house, and we were there for a few days. And the guy was a little bit weird. And then we left the house one day, and when the customer wasn't home, and then he came back to the house after we were gone, and he accused me of stealing his answering machine. And he called the police on us.
Really?
For real. He called the police on us. So the police actually called me and said, this guy said you stole his answering machine. And I
Hold
mean,
on, let me check my
this
messages.
is like,
Wait,
I don't know.
you gotta leave. You gotta leave. Your number.
I guess
Wait,
we
let me
should
check my
even,
messages.
for those of you who don't remember answering machines, that was before cell phones, pretty much. But
Before
anyway.
pagers.
Yeah. But so the police came to our place and they wanted to know what was going on and did I steal this guy's answering machine? So luckily, we were one of the first companies to have truck trackers and GPS. So I got the report from the GPS, the truck tracking company, and they showed where I was at the time that he wasn't there and said that we stole it. And I was 40 miles away. I was someplace else. So
Tell the
he had
truth,
to drop
Rich. You
it.
stole the damn machine, didn't you?
I still, you want to buy it? I stick it to my
Told
truck.
your helper, drive the truck 40 miles away and come pick me up later.
1-800 the jerks. You dial that number
Yeah.
and you can hear the answering machine.
Speaking of wacky customers, though, I had a guy call up and say that one of my guys stole the rubber mat from his workout room.
Oh,
Like,
you never know.
I've heard it had
That's some weird shit right there. I don't know what you're going to use that for.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like that or something.
I mean,
I don't know. But
if you had anybody say that somebody was stole the wife's underwear or something, I've had that.
I think that's a big. I think that's across the
No,
board.
I kind of can see
People
you
do that
stealing the
stuff,
underwear
yeah.
over the machine.
Well, people are into that stuff, and they probably sell it
Yeah.
online for a good buck these days. If you get some fresh panties.
I
Hey,
thought,
there's somebody
I, thought
for-
I knew the
that's
both of you. Please, Mr. Producer, get me out of this room.
So
I don't know, man. I don't know. There is that. There's
weird
fetish
stuff
there.
out
And there's
there.
people that are into that. People are into all kinds of weird stuff. You really never know who you're.
no matter what you can think of, there's somebody into it. So
how long you been married to your wife and my wife?
I'm not married to his wife.
Right. Well, whatever you guys do, I don't know. But
Yeah, I could just see the both of you in ballerina outfits swinging from a chandelier.
right.
I get
A
it.
little
I
sex
get it.
swing action. But 20 years later, you're still learning.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, yeah.
never you never know. So
Nah,
you
there's-
can't imagine hiring somebody in 2 years and think you know them.
Yeah.
You know them as a worker, you know them as an employee,
Yeah.
maybe, but you don't know what the hell they're into.
Yeah,
I never
right.
knew this guy had a sound studio in his basement.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, by day, super HVAC man. By night, mogul recording studio.
Oh, yeah. So just a little background on our producer guy that's doing all the editing. So I hope he
Yeah,
makes
John,
us sound.
yeah.
He's an HVAC expert himself. So, we all come from the same background.
So if this sounds like shit, it's his fault.
All right. So if anything goes sour,
Got that,
we'll
John?
blame it on him.
Now I know why the window's so high, so he can nod off while we're talking.
And by the way, there's still no hors d'oeuvres in here.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
what else? You got any more stories? I got one guy. I had a guy who was just really candid. He was a nice guy. He was a lot of fun, but he would just say what was ever on his mind. It was like no filter at all. So he would go to a customer's house and he would look at that piece of equipment and he'd go right up to the customer and say, "Well, I've never worked on one of these before, but I'll give it a shot." I mean, that's there's a guy that's really instilling confidence in.
I was removed from a customer's house, joking around like
Yeah.
that, and she was very nervous. Maybe at the time I was young and looked young, or so she felt unconfident with me being there. But at the time, I was one of the head techs, if you will, one of the guys that had the most experience. And so they sent me there to solve her problem. But when she came down, she kept checking in periodically. How are you doing? How are you doing? Is everything okay? Do you need anything? And I had solved the problem, repaired the issue, and she says to me, "Are you okay? Did you get it?" And I said, "Yeah, I did all right for the first time. I'm glad it came with a manual."
Yeah.
And she just looked at me and just no expression, just blank, and turned around and walked away.
Yeah.
I just went about my business. I filled out my tag and
Right.
doing my paperwork, and I get a phone call from my office saying, "Get the hell out of that lady's house. We don't know what the hell you just said to her, but she's freaking out on the phone. She wants you out of their house immediately." And so I went back to the office and I was like, "Get in here right now." And to find out that the comment was taken literally, not as a joke. So apparently I'm not as funny as I thought I was.
Yeah, I tried to say that before because your story sucked before, and now you just proved it.
You know, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I can tell you stories that have nothing to do with HVAC to make you laugh, but you know, HVAC stuff, you know.
I can tell you stories about you that can make us laugh too.
You probably know them better than I do. My memory is a little weak when it comes to those.
How about this? You ever work in a place that was? You ever see any weird stuff in equipment? I used to work off the coast in Connecticut, and when I was a salesman down there, one of the oil companies was during one of the big hurricanes. I don't know what was, whatever.
Sandy.
8 years ago. Maybe it was probably Sandy actually. And the guys from the oil company they were telling me different stories about what they saw. And down in Greenwich, Connecticut, down where there's all the money in the world.
Housing.
What's that?
Fish in the blower housing.
So, almost. This guy, they had so much water in some of these basements, they were taking fish out of the ductwork.
I believe
So
it.
that's really,
Wow.
that's true. They had some basements that were like, the sand was so deep in the basements, they covered half the furnace.
I never had to deal with that.
Yeah.
Where we are, I don't have too much sand.
Nah. What else?
I think we're getting to the end of our funny stories, and now we can get serious. Oh my gosh.
Well, they were talking about employees calling in sick. I think that was one of the things that we were going to talk about.
Well,
here
something
a little bit, so-
recently happened to you, didn't it, with one of your employees? I think we're still laughing about it.
I think it happens every week, but not to this extent.
And
know.
after all
a
these,
tummy ache.
yeah,
or,
but
you
after
know.
all these years, I think I've never heard an excuse like your guy gave you.
I've heard some excuses, but this one,
Tell our listeners about your interesting dilemma that you faced.
Well,
recently.
I'm sure a lot of people out there have either done this or as an owner or a manager has experienced this from employees or workers underneath you, where they like to call in 10 minutes before they're due on arrival to let you know that some major catastrophe has happened. Their cat got out, or the well tank won't stop running, or I have a flat tire. I think, in fact, one of the excuses I received minutes before they were supposed to be at work was my windshield wipers are frozen to my windshield. So I've heard quite a few things, but this most recent one was pretty interesting because we have this gentleman that works for us, and he's been really good for us and good guy. He's young, he's learning the industry, he's new to the business. He's a little bit older, but he's new to the business, and he's taking to it very well. And I think he has great future with us. But he's into dogs, so he has these dogs, and I guess
Like
he woke up.
55 dogs?
No, I think two.
Okay,
but
so
he's,
normal
they're
amount of dogs.
bigger. I think they're Rotties and pit bulls or something like that. They're good-sized dogs, medium to large dogs. Lives in an apartment. Probably too big for what his accommodations maybe, but who the hell am I to say? But so he calls in Monday and he says that he can't come in because he found out that his dogs have fleas and that they are on him as well, and he can't come into work because he needs to address this situation. So Monday morning, I naturally called Joe, during his first cappuccino espresso of the day.
Right.
And Joe just can't stop laughing.
I was just like, this has got to go down in history as the top 5 excuses not to go to work I've ever heard.
Can't come in, I have fleas.
Three things make Joe laugh that hard, apparently.
Yeah.
And one is anything to do with pooping your pants.
Yeah.
Anything to do with watching a fat guy try to sing Irish music. And fleas as an excuse to not come into work.
That was one of the best thing. But the best part's coming up as he will continue.
So, as we found out later in the day, that it was for real because the other employee that was in his vehicle came back at the end of the day and was like, I'm picking fleas off me all day. I think they're all over the truck.
It was actually true.
The truck's got fleas.
I thought it was funny because it was actually true. I'm like, this guy's great. He
So
made
it got
up
even
something
funnier
original.
because it was real.
And the guy's going, I'm full of fleas in my car.
It sounded pretty lame in the beginning, like, oh, come on, what kind of bullshit excuse is that, But,
I've heard it all now.
So the fleas were real. So we had to go down to the local Petco and purchase some flea bombs, and we blew our van up dog a couple nights in a row there. So it was our after-hours excursions.
Wow.
But it's a very real thing. So keep your fleas.
You
in check.
have to have given him a new name by his name.
We haven't. We haven't.
It's got to be
picked
Flea.
Yeah,
or
he's
something.
he's due for a new.
Nothing. I don't want to steal the name from the Red Hot Chili Peppers guys. So.
Who, Flea?
Yeah, Flea.
Yeah.
So I don't know about nicknames. I'm not too worried about that. But my secretary sends me a text, and she's like, what are we going to do about this moving forward? And I'm
Put
like,
up a policy?
so I'm thinking in my head, like, do
Company
what?
policy.
Like company policy, like what? So
No
I
fleas
responded.
in the van?
So I responded to her and I said, we're just going to have a no pet policy for our company from here on out. Like, and she's a dog lover herself,
Yeah.
so she's like, well, that's bullshit. Like, I have dogs, and I'm like, then you have fleas. So no pets, no fleas. That's how it's going to be from here on out. She goes, well, you can't do that, and I'm like, well, what would you like me to do? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, shit happens, right? I mean, the guy got fleas from his dog.
So you can have a policy you can't get sick either.
Could happen to anybody, right? So putting a policy like that on, a rare situation. Obviously this isn't. Well, if he calls in next week with more fleas, or 6 months from now with fleas again, then we're gonna have to have a conversation. But
Yeah.
that was probably one of the most interesting ones to date for me, as far as calling in sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't.
I don't know, man. I think you get into a point where, you had guys work for you.
Yeah,
no one ever banged in. You never
every day.
stupid stories.
and this could
I'm
go
stuck on a ladder.
Yeah.
Help me get
No,
off.
but
I mean,
this could go from funny to serious very, very quickly. But go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just remember two things. I stuck on a ladder, no, but I had a guy. Well, actually, I've had a guy who was stuck on a roof. The ladder blew down. He couldn't get off the roof. But better yet, I had a guy who was in a service truck, and he left his keys on the dashboard, and he went in the back to get his tools or whatever. And for whatever reason, he closed the door to make a phone call, and he locked himself in the back of the van because it had the cage in the front, and the handles were broken off the doors on the inside. So he had to call us to go to him 15 miles away to let him out of his own truck. So somebody could have stolen the truck because the keys were in the front with him in the back, and he couldn't have done anything about
break
it.
the window.
So yeah, but the windows had cages on them. But I had one last one. I had another installer who was really a hardcore guy. Great guy, really knew what he was doing, but this guy was an animal to his helpers. This guy would beat them with a stick until they submitted, no matter what they were doing. And one guy one day stepped in something and he smelled like shit. So all the way back from the job in like 95-degree weather, he made him ride in the back of the truck, in the box of the truck for like
oh no, it's in a box.
No, it's a box truck. So he's in the back of the box truck. It was 95 degrees, and he had like 40 miles to go or something. So,
Smell your own product, buddy.
so
That's awesome. Well, we had, on installs. There's some funny stories, and we had this guy George, old timer. This guy used to drive around with a 6-pack of Busch in the driver door on ice.
Oh yeah.
And when he opened the door, water would come pouring out, and it's 8:00 in the morning. He's cracking a beer, and you talk about an animal installer. This guy was like, just give me a boiler, get the hell out of my way, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so we get to this job, and I'm on it with him, and we have another guy. And George is probably about half the size of me. I'm 250. He's probably about $1.25 wet. Put a couple beers in him. He's $1.30.
Yeah.
How much? So 250.
Are you sure?
At the time of this story, I was 250 pounds.
Okay,
Joe.
I'm sorry.
That's documented. I can prove it. So
Joe's thinking if you're 250, shit, I got to be 350.
Yeah, by now. Go on.
So, you want me to prove it to you?
No, I'm fine.
So at the time of the story, I was probably more like 240.
That makes more. I got it now. Yeah, I understand.
So I was pretty slender back in the day.
Right.
So we get there, and it's staircase is really rickety. Now, boilers, if people are out there not familiar with what a boiler is, it's cast iron, weighs about anywhere from 6 to 1,000 pounds, so 600 to 1,000. This particular boiler was about 650 to 700 pounds. Put a burner on it, you're just over that. Put 2-3 guys on a staircase in a 1950s home.
Yeah.
A couple 2x4s and some 2x6s in between.
That sounds like disaster.
Yep. Pretty risky business. So, just walking up and down the stairs, we can just feel the treads
bouncing,
just bending, and you can hear the last little bit of life left in the nails just creaking out of the wood. And the quality of wood too, a little shady,
Scary stuff.
So steep, weren't built to specs, so. Now we got to take this big boiler down there, and we got at the top of the stairs, and I'm standing on the stairs, and I'm going, George, I don't think this is a good idea. I think we got to shut. We can't do this, man. Like, we're gonna have to, rebuild these stairs, secure them, build them up, beef them up. So George says, Kevin, get out of the goddamn way. I don't got time for this shit. So I get up from around the boiler, get to the top of the stairs, and he does this MMA shit and kicks the goddamn boiler down the stairs. Bam! Right, just shoves this thing down, jacket and all,
Nice.
brand new out of the box.
Yeah, man.
This thing goes down, boom, 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 destroys the staircase, makes it to the bottom of the stairs, right? So we're able to get to the bottom of the staircase, get to the boiler,
Yeah.
and the jacket's smashed.
Looks like tinfoil.
Oh, man, it's all banged up, I mean, it was probably like a Wheel McLean or a Burnham or something, but the blue jacket is just destroyed.
Yeah.
And so we get there, we get down to the bottom, we're inspecting it, things are broken, this and that, so... George is like, just screw it, just get this thing over there. So he strips it down to the bare cast iron and says, fuck this. We're just going to order a new jacket. So he gets on the phone with the office, order a new jacket, send somebody here next week or whatever with the jacket and replace it. So we put this thing without a jacket on, pipe it all up, get it done. We're out of there by noon. He's half drunk on the way home. And we got the boiler done, but kick that thing right down the staircase. Unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. That takes a set. But the guy still has a job. He's still working. This guy's like almost 80.
Because he's working.
He's almost 80. The guy's still been doing this.
But he's doing the work of 3 guys, though. That's why he still has a job.
The guy's a maniac.
Yeah.
He's an old breed, man. They don't make him like that. His mother used to shoot deer out his back door of the house, on state land.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, freaking maniacs.
So, yeah. I think
That's who taught me. That was my teacher.
Okay.
I put a boiler in 3 hours.
This is
kick it down the staircase.
This is bringing up a lot of stories now, but we don't have time for them.
Oh man, we'll touch on all these things again. I mean, we're never going to not talk about this stuff.
No, we're trying to do one of these all the time. But
being the fact that we don't know what the hell we're doing, and this is only our second show. Joe is
is Joe sleeping?
Is Joe here?
Joe's sleeping.
No, I'm listening.
He's under the weight on. He's under the table.
Overwhelmed with your story. It's just so fascinating. I almost,
I'm sure there has to be like a hot cup of coffee episode or something from your gas station experiences.
Oh my gosh!
When the guy, overfilled his tank and didn't have enough money or something.
Oh, that used to be every day. Oh, look, the light turned green. Let me go while the gas nozzle stole the car. But anyway, this was fun, and I hope some people got some laughs out of this, and we were all able to get some funny stories out, or maybe not so funny stories out, but it's okay. We'll go on.
They're funny to real people.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this instigates some feedback from the
guys, send us your stuff, man.
Funny stories out there too. So.
Yeah. So if you got some stuff, send it our way, and it could always open up another story that we're not thinking of at the moment. We're under a little pressure here. We have to perform.
I'm going to pull a shameless plug right now and tell you that I wrote a book called 101 Ways to Suck as an HVAC Tech, and it's available on Amazon. So go find that. It's funny. A lot of these funny stories.
I think it's pretty funny. That was the first book I ever read.
So anyway,
big text, so you don't have.
It's easy to read. The story's only 2 pages long, so it's easy.
Pop up would be cool.
Anyway, all right. I think we're going to wrap it up here, and we hope you all enjoyed the show this time. Don't forget, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts or at our website, which is the HVACJerks.com. And if you have any questions or comments or things you'd like us to discuss, like I said last time, or you've got any good stories for us, send them in. You can email us at theboys@thehvacjerks.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And have a great week.
See you.
Ciao.
You guys are jerks.
Follow the HVAC Jerks on Facebook and Instagram.